2020 was a dumpster fire of a year. For a whole host of reasons, really. But because of the pandemic, a lot of us were deprived of our usual sources of comfort. Now, whether that's going to a concert, catching a movie with a friend, as a result, we had to adapt, find new comforts, or in my case, rediscover an old one. By the way, you're watching Good Movies and Music, and this is what I've been listening to. So, I was a big video game nerd growing up in the 90s, before gaming was as ubiquitous and mainstream as it is now. At the time, you could still get made fun of by other kids just for playing video games. My first console was the NES, when I was a wee lad, and I would stand about this close to the TV to play Duck Hunt. But the console that really sparked my love for gaming was the Super Nintendo. I was in the second grade, it was Christmas Day, and playing Super Mario World for the first time, that was pure magic. It was like being transported to this joyful, just awe-inspiring world. And look, I grew up in not the best neighborhood, soy del barrio, but I had a loving family who encouraged my geekdom and supported all my nerdy inclinations. But as I got older, and in particular as I went away to college, I left video gaming behind. So I sold my PS1 and my collection of games to GameStop so I could start college with a little bit of extra spending cash. Of course, at this exact moment, I'm wishing I would have taken that cash and invested it into GameStop stock. Wow. So I lived my 20s as a non-gamer, and I didn't even really miss gaming. At that point, I had just what I considered more grown-up interests. Fast forward a little, I'm in my 30s now, and I actually bought an SNES Classic a couple years ago, just totally on a lark. But after beating Mario Kart and Super Punch-Out in the first month, it went into a drawer and it just stayed there. Smash cut to 2020, the world shuts down. It's March, I'm home all day. I decide, let's give that Classic Mini a spin, and booting up Super Mario World turns out to be exactly the comfort food for the soul that I needed at that moment. Big dopamine rush, and it beats the hell out of doom scrolling all day. I've since cooled it a bit on the retro gaming, but one thing that stuck with me is how great the music is. Sonically, yes, but also just how well written it is. These composers knew how to write an earworm of a melody. I'm talking about your Kenji Kondos, your David Weisses, your Setsuo Yamamotos. Now that fact has only been further confirmed for me by my discovery of video game music through Bandcamp. Now, Bandcamp's a great place to discover new music because it's based around independent artists selling their music digitally and in hard copy. And video game inspired music is plentiful on Bandcamp. And video game music as a genre isn't so much a sound, it's more of an aesthetic. It's the influence of video games in the music. VGM, as it's called for short, can be adapted from any genre, from synthwave to metal to jazz. And that's exactly what I have for you here today. So first things first, these aren't cover bands, not that that's a bad thing, but these are musicians taking 8-bit compositions and reinterpreting them and creating something new. In some cases, they're even writing totally original songs that just happen to be reminiscent of classic video game music. So, first album up, and you know we had to start with some Mario. We have Mario and Chill, which is distributed by Game Chops and was produced by Helynt. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing that. What's cool about this album is that it's a smooth synthwave throwback with modern, clean pop production that feels fresh and nostalgic at the same time. I just love the slow buildup of this song. Like, it's just hinting that you know something's about to drop, that you're going on a journey with this album. How 80s-tastic is that? Jeez. And I'm not listening to this ironically. Nice little flourish there with the extra synthesizer hit. You know what it is. Transports you right back to 1992. I mean, I know the SNES came out like around, 90 or 91, but that's when my family could afford one. It was 92. You're not ready for this. Here it comes. Just listening to Overworld, I'm like, am I at a 80s high school prom right now? Or at a 2010s music festival? Now, is this music a little cheesy? Arguably. But it was clearly made with love by somebody who's a fan of Nintendo and a fan of Mario, and this gets my respect. Now, we couldn't do this segment without throwing in some dire docs. Shout out to N64. I was a PlayStation kid by then, but I admired the N64 from a distance. Ooh, it just came back like that, didn't it? It's a fun album for sure, and it's $10 on Bandcamp, which, I'm not gonna lie, it's a little steep for a digital album, but it's totally worth it for an album as smooth as this. And come on, support your artists. What are you doing? And next up, in a totally different direction, we have Bitforce from San Antonio, Texas. I actually saw these guys play live a couple years ago when I was catching free shows at South by Southwest. They were phenomenal, and they brought so much energy. And then a couple of months ago, I find myself wondering, what's Bitforce up to right now? And lo and behold, they just dropped their new self-titled album. What's cool about it is that this is their first album that is composed entirely of all original material. There aren't any video game covers here, but you can definitely tell that the influence is alive and well. This is the 8-bit influence meets metal, and it rocks. Right off the jump, you hear a little bit of the actual 8-bit, but then you get that power pop guitar. Who says metal can't be catchy as hell? She puts a smile on her face. So track 2 was a little on the poppier side, but this next track, track 3, is just full-on metal. Listen to that. And special shout out to the song Press Start to Continue, which features Mega Ran and Professor Shy Guy. Bring in a little bit of hip hop influence. Very reminiscent of Del the Funky Homo Sapien. Love the style, it's very throwback. Mega Ran was at that show that I caught a couple years ago with Bitforce, and man, his flow is catchy as hell. And this song has an uplifting message, which is cool. But then, of course, you gotta bring it full circle, and they close out the album with a couple more metal tracks. And last but not least, we head into a more jazzy direction. The OneUps have one of the biggest discographies of video game music that I know of. Their albums are musically diverse, with influences ranging anywhere from metal to disco. Their earliest work was often straight-ahead jazz with more traditional jazz instrumentation, but over their newer releases, you start to see them broaden their sound. You start to hear metal guitar riffs, retro synthesizers, and more of an emphasis on dancey music that really grooves. So this is what I mean when I say that their earlier stuff was more on the jazzy side. This is their second album, Volume 2. You Mega Man X fans might recognize this as the Boomer Quanger level music. And of course you can't go jazzy video game music covers and not throw in some Sonic the Hedgehog. We didn't have a Sega Genesis growing up in my house. We were a Nintendo family, but it's all love, no hate. I'm sure if I would have had one, I would have loved it. It just didn't work out that way. This is iconic though. I recognize this music just from hanging out at friends' houses. You didn't have to own a Sega Genesis to know this music. And then things really start to evolve as it gets deeper into their discography. This is their 8th album, which weirdly enough is called Volume 4. But this is a cover from Donkey Kong Country. Getting funky Kong. Yeah, listen to that. It's a little bit of a Latin vibe there. Just for good measure, had to throw in another Dire Dire Docks in there. Yeah, this is the OneUps take on Dire Dire Docks. Yeah, I would say that even like this stretch of Dire Dire Docks from OneUps has even almost like a King Crimson vibe to it, like mid-70s King Crimson when they had, you know, a saxophone player and a violin player in there. And this kind of sounds like some of their improvs from that era. They're talented players for sure, and it shows by the vast array of influences that they're able to so seamlessly incorporate and not have it feel forced and just sound totally organic and totally fun. So that's what I've been listening to. 3 great artists, all available on Bandcamp. FYI, and this is not paid promotion, but Bandcamp did something really cool at the start of the pandemic back in March of 2020. They decided that to help artists out, they were going to waive the cut that they take from sales on the first Friday of every month. So every Friday, first Friday of the month, it's called Bandcamp Friday, and 100% of the sales go to the musical artists themselves. Now, last I checked, they're going to keep this promotion going at least through May of this year. So good on them for doing that. You know, it's important to support musical artists right now because they can't tour. And touring for a lot of artists is the bulk of their livelihood. So it makes it all that much more important to find other ways to monetarily support artists that create this wonderful music. So that's it for today. Do you have any video game music recommendations? I'd love to hear them. Just let me know in the comments. And if you appreciated this video, go ahead and hit that thumbs up, and do me a favor and hit the subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications so you can stay up to date on all my latest videos. Good movies and music. My name's AJ. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.